I'm Sheila Corona. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila. And we're going to jump right back into session number 18 on page 61. If you're following along in the book, Handbook for the New Paradigm, Volume 1. Today is still Tuesday, August the 14th. No, I'm sorry, 15th. Have I been saying the wrong date all day? I think I have. Oh, no. Oh, well. It's actually August the 15th, 2023. So, session number 18. The day begins anew as your planet turns on its axis, and mankind sleeps on under the influence of the forces of darkness. Their plans seem to move in an inexplicable focus of disaster, and only those few faithful ones appear to be awake and recording the movement of doom upon this lovely world of green and blue. The magic of the beauty becomes blurred, and the very home upon which you depend is shutting down around you, and still, if noticed, it is ignored. The final days descend into the abyss while your TV, sports, and potions of sleep drug you figuratively and literally. What now can you few do to stem the tide of blackness as it deepens more and more quickly? Shall we recount again all that you already know and groan and beat upon our breasts as did the prophets of old and cry out to quote God to save us? Millions are already doing that to a creator they think ignores their cries to answer their prayers. It is in the perception of victims that desire rescuing that they ask and cannot receive answers to such prayers. Indeed, only those prayers that ask for empowerment within the framework of creation can be answered. Do you think that the stars stay up in heaven, in your heavens, by casual request of a God being? Indeed not. They are there within the design of balance and mathematical laws that underpin all that is. Man continues in his mindless begging and blocks the very help he desires by being unwilling to participate except in ways that are contrary to the very laws that support his unhappy existence. The story of these laws surround them in what remains of nature. But in his misery, he blinds himself. The scientific learned ones analyze the components, but not the process of life within the manifested structures of life that surround them. That sort of feels like it's changing in the fact that I've seen a couple of quantum physicists break ranks and begin to write books such as the one that we will be studying soon on the chapter in our book study group by Tom Campbell, My Big Toe, Theory of Everything. He is a quantum physicist. And I think there's another one, Irvin Laszlo, that has come out recently with lots of information about the metaphysical consciousness in general. So I'm going to read that again. Man continues in his mindless begging and blocks the very help he desires by being unwilling to participate except in ways that are contrary to the very laws that support his unhappy existence. The story of these laws surrounds them in what remains of nature, but in his misery he blinds himself. The scientific learned ones analyze the components, but not the process of life within the manifested structures of life that surround them. The mental analysis of the mind deludes him into arrogant belief of his superiority over his surroundings rather than his brotherhood and kinship within it. I have said that many times. We only think we the top of the food chain as far as that sort of thing goes. Consciousness, or I should say ego, is very the hubris to think that we know better than actual nature, you know. How can those be helped that are becoming more and more blind to the very process within which they exist? The victim cannot be rescued, but must pull himself up by his own bootstraps and rescue himself by being responsible for his own rescue. Man is made in the essence of his source. He is a tiny holograph of this source. A holograph is a tiny fragment of the whole that has the potentiality of projecting the whole from which it came. That is the potentiality of projecting the whole. Oh, wait a minute, I read that again. A holograph is a tiny fragment of the whole that has the potentiality of projecting the whole from which it came. Though the concept of the holograph has been emphasized in part, it has not been analyzed, and that's in quotations, with application to the essence of life that is within all self-aware beings. It is the refocusing of this fragment toward its source of existence that determines the degree of the totality of the source that is brought forth into the known reality of each fragment's experience. If you consider the degree of the focus that has brought forth the planet Earth from the fragment of its source, you can begin to get the picture. Look at the magnificence of the human body. That is the vehicle of your experience here. A vehicle capable of housing a self-awareness that can contemplate its source, if it but will, because that source contemplates itself and in so doing fragments itself so that it can further contemplate itself. Through manifestation of experience. Within it is the free will to do this, since free will is the vehicle for this contemplation. Then it is manifest within each holographic fragment. This free will allows for all experience within a further enhancement of this self-contemplation process. This is the polarity that enables the recognition of that which serves the contemplation process and that which does not, so that the balance of these allows the completion of each exploration into the return of the fragment originally projected to its source. To follow this process as presented, there is a spiral of understanding as this is contemplated by the mind reading this information. Each fragment returns to itself, to the source that projected. Wait a minute. Each fragment returns itself to the source that projected it. Thus, you are led to understand the framework of the process you are within, for each of you are a holographic fragment of the source of all that is in the process of self-contemplation. This is, I'm being shown specifically what this is. It is the all and one at the same time. And also, I'm also being shown this is why it is the law of attraction. What is emanated out goes out, gathers speed, momentum, amplification, and then returns back to the book. Panic. You will become as nothing if you follow the path of the return. Indeed not. With each returning phase toward the source of your entry into experience, your own self-awareness grows, and it becomes greater and greater until you have the absolute potential to being a total equal within the greater totality of that source contemplating itself. Does that boggle your finite minds? Indeed, it should not. It should be the most comforting news that you have ever encompassed. It does feel like that to me. I don't know why, but it just says, could there ever be a brighter picture of your future ever painted? What possible pleasures could ever compete with a future like that? Let me assure you that that's why it always feels like standing on the edge of forever. There's no other feeling to compare that to for me that I have access to within this physical vessel. And I've begun to feel that again, like I did when I was participating over in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let me assure you that there are no fleeting pleasures of the body incarnate that can compare with those that await you as the fragmentary self-awareness begins to ascend the spiral of experience toward the ultimate goal. Well, I feel that already in my body, the titillating feeling of that upward trajectory in vibratory resonance, if you will, right? The problem is bridging the gulf of misunderstanding that has been set up as a trap by ones that have become caught up in the distorted misuse of the aspect of free will. These pitiful ones have become so caught up as to perceive themselves as powerful enough to reach not only total equality with the totality of the source of all, but that they can reach a place of superiority. Even the distorted psychiatric paradigm of your time would consider this insanity if they could but encompass the scheme in its totality. I heard the word megalomania in my head, so there's that. Within this distorted power grab, it is necessary to have a distorted replica of the process, a counterpart to that which exists. Humanity is but one building block of this, for they cannot create from a negative potentiality. Try as they have, it will not work. So they are left with the process of converting what already exists from what you would term positive into its opposite, a negative counterpart. Now, this is not a recent event in your linear counting process. How much have they accomplished? So as not to overwhelm you completely, let us say that it has reached a critical stage. To allow it to continue would jeopardize more of manifested experience by the source than is comfortable. Enough to bring a focus of awareness of this, quote, awesome totality of source to bear upon the problem. The potentiality of this focus for bringing back bringing balance back into the totality of the process, as explained above, is awesome to contemplate, even within the limits of third dimensional perception. We have attempted to explain before that there is help available, that it is powerful, and have even understated it. However, the key to the release of this awesome force lies within that which has created the situation in the first place: free will. And that's all caps, the whole word. If you are not of exceptional value, if you were not of exceptional value beyond being the vehicle of change, other means of ending this could be employed. The fragment from which each and every individual fragment of that focus is a portion must be accounted for in order for the balance of all to be maintained. You cannot be simply written off. That would create a flaw that would cause unacceptable repercussions. All fragments must return to the source from which they were focused or projected, in order for that source to remain in balance of wholeness. That is not to say that those that have perpetrated this distorted experience to the extreme will not have some interesting educational experiences, or certainly they shall. Your perception of time does not allow you to contemplate such a process, so do not attempt to do so. It is important that you gather into your awareness the wholeness of this situation, so that you can begin to contemplate the understanding that even those of darkest behavior patterns are valuable to the source that you call God. They are a part of the totality of all that the word source implies. Simply telling you that they are a part of all that is has not brought with it comprehension that encompasses the necessary understanding. And so, another approach to it has been attempted here. Back to basics lesson in your vernacular. Let us hope that this has now been accomplished. If not, perhaps the rereading of this will bring it about. It is not that we wish a softening of your attitude toward what is being perpetrated, which would further their negative cause, but that you understand why simply destroying the whole experiment is not an option, or why just messing up their plans is not enough. The source, the big boss, wants it resolved. And who are we to argue? We have this key issue to resolve, so let us get on with it. And I'm going to jump right into session number 19 on page 65, if you're following along. Around the world, there is a greater and greater feeling of unrest. The intuitive aspects of each being begin to awaken, for the energy atmosphere of the planet is resonating with the focus of attention placed upon this single planet by the entire galaxy. Your fellow awake and aware co-inhabitants are certainly noticing what is going on here. This is different from the suffocating, direct, manipulative energies that are being diffused upon your conscious awareness. The galactic attention is coming through energies too subtle to be picked up by mechanistic methods, in use by those of focused dark intent. The opposition must attain its ends by employing methods of suppression of the natural expansive movement of thought within manifested form. Gee, that sounds a lot like censorship, doesn't it? In a 3D sort of way, it encompasses that. What is flowing into your mass consciousness from the galaxy that surrounds you is of a natural, expansive quality. It is received within the awareness and then follows its expansive nature and arrives exponentially outward into conscious awareness as dreams and sleep patterns that are not restful. The governing factor with regard to the receiving of this galactic message is the degree to which the inner awareness of each individual being has been suppressed. How slow is the vibratory rate of the being? Can it still receive the stimulation of the higher and more rapid vibration of this galactic thought form? This is not a message of condolence that is being sent by sympathetic individuals. That is a trick of the lower dark energies, another of their suppression techniques. Rather, this is a focus of stimulation so that the receptors of light, which hold each in focus, may be returned to greater use. So you begin to see that there are two foci of energy in motion, one of suppression and one of stimulation. We prefer not to use terminology of war here, but it can be noted that the, quote, battle for this planet is already underway, not as depicted with carnage everywhere being created by both sides, but in the claiming and the retaining of soul energies. The one side is planning for many, the other for all. Remember, if one tiny unit of energy is truly destroyed, then the totality of all is lost. The source of all that is expansive in nature. The energy can change form through what appears to be the rise and fall, the birth and death of form. But the energy that is at the very basis of this phenomenon is always present. A polarity always exists within the format of this ever-present energy. However, it does not have to be present in the format of what you perceive as evil, dark forces. That opposite polarity is another subject. What you must understand is that what appears to be the opposite polarity in the experience of planet Earth is an aberration, a distorted use of this polarity in energy. It is the exception, not the norm. The more clearly that you understand what is available to you within the context of this situation, the more easily you will be able to maintain the focus on your purpose within energies that are in motion around and through you. It is easier to succumb to the energies of suppression in some moments of your time than to maintain your focus upon the stimulating energies that are acting within you. The battle is not open I'm sorry, the battle is not upon the surface of the planet, as you have been told, but it is within the individual awareness. And it is, by definition, also within the planetary awareness. It is either understood or misunderstood that within the planetary awareness, the minds of humanity in combination is the conscious awareness of the planet itself. Therefore, the transformation of the planet earned by her through her repeated motherhood of evolving civilizations hinges upon the transformation of her current resident civilization. I question that for myself. I have this feeling that that is not the case, but that could be an experiential filter speaking here, showing through. You can begin to understand that the unity of this evolvement. You can begin to understand that the unity of this evolvement process brings forth the potential for misuse. This inner coagulation of energetic purpose is organized for the process of transcendence. The polar opposite conceived one world suppression rather than planetary expansive transformation into higher dimensional vibratory experience. With the presence of so much heavy energy thought exchange between the planetary inhabitants, mind to mind exchange of conceptual understanding has reached a very low ebb. This has resulted in a proliferation of mechanized communication, each representing the abilities once in common use by you without a manifested device to make it possible. We've talked a lot about that for those of you that have not followed me for a time. We've talked a lot about that TV, telephone, internet, all of these methods of communication are merely but an adaptation, a cheap imitation of what we each innately have available to us, but we've not figured out how to use them due to our misunderstanding and generational programming and conditioning that we've done to each other. With the rapid advancement of these technologies or devices through the focus on heavy, slow, vibratory manifestation, what appears to be marvelous advancement is indeed quite the opposite. It represents a loss of ability to focus, the formative, expansive use of the power of thought inherent within all creation. Sleight of mind is at work, again, diverting your attention from the potentiality of creating outward from within through the use of the outer mind activity of analysis and manipulation of your manifested reality. I'm sorry, I can't help but hear and see here my feeling about focus and attention, and my taking control of my focus and attention and directing it myself, as that is how we create. And we create in every moment that we move. That's what I feel. Back to the book now. The natural flow would be toward the exploration of the inner awareness and manifesting outward into your realities the greater experiences to be found there. Where do you think the greater people serving ideas come from? Where do you think the greater people serving ideas come? Instead, these are being twisted into people suppressing uses right before your eyes while you fail to observe what is at work. All the while you are watching the show being staged, diverting your attention. So now the fun begins in earnest. You are making your final attempts to reach the inner awareness of as many as possible through the last available use of their technologies. But you are also beginning to join forces with the inner energy stimulation. You too are receiving this stimulation. Indeed, you are like the repeater stations that your radio stations use. You are serving multiple purposes, and you are perfectly aware of doing this within the inner awareness portions of your totality of experience. Trust the process and hold the pole, so to speak. All is far from lost. Welcome to the winning side. Focus and manifest. And that's the end of session 19. And we'll begin next time on session 20. That's it for this one. I hope you, if you are drawn here, I hope that you will like and share this video, this entire series. And please know that I am going to be very soon, probably before I actually start recording volume 2, going to be starting a book club. I would love if you are interested in getting together, reading this together, and discussing it as we go. That is something I want to do. And so you can reach out to me at consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com or sassyseersheila@gmail.com. So until we meet again, I hope that you will continue to move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. And if for some reason you think you can't, just slow yourself down, kind of look at the situation and see if there's just not another perspective that you might be able to see, sense, or feel that would bring you a higher joy than this way over here. I feel like it is a matter of perspective. Till next time, be well, my friends.